Hey, it's Friday. What do you guys say? We've got another pandemic-filled Friday, so if you're a musician and you were planning on gigging this weekend, just hang out with me. You're going to talk to a really fun guest today who balances a bunch of different things like I'm trying to do. Before I get started, though, I want to thank these guys, 5-Star Guitars. 5-Star is a wonderful guitar store in Beaverton, Oregon. They were named by the NAMM, North American Music Merchants Association, for being the vendor of the year. So all the guitar stores in the world, 5-Star is number one. It's not just me saying it. So if you go to 5starguitars.com/all-access-live, you can see about 6 or 7 pages of great products, guitar stands, guitar cases, accessories, microphones, everything, with 15% off if you use the promo code. So go to 5starguitars.com/all-access-live, use the promo code all-access15 when you check out. You're going to save 15%, and there's no sales tax. Oregon has no sales tax. So you're going to save a bunch of money, and you're going to support local, and you're going to support me because they've supported me as well. So let me tell you, before we get started here, I have so many really cool guests coming up besides today. On Tuesday, 3 o'clock Pacific, I've got Damian Erskine. Bass players will know him. He's an educator. He's had a bunch of books out. He is a world-class bass player, primarily in the jazz and the fusion industry. His uncle, Peter Erskine, is a Hall of Fame drummer, and he's got so much to share. We've gigged together, and he's a badass. Wednesday is my brother, Kyle Baltus, from 36 Crazy Fists and the Loyal Order. He's toured the world. He's a wicked drummer, and so we're going to catch up. On Thursday, Charlie Wadhams is going to be on. Charlie, you would know from his dad first, his dad, Bill Wadhams from Animotion. But Charlie also has a bunch of music in TV and movies. So if you saw Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, he wrote the primary songs in that. So he'll be on Thursday at 3 o'clock. Monday the 15th, we'll have a post-Valentine's Day special with Christian Celeron. He's going to be at 4 o'clock. A little bit of a different time slot for us on an All Access Live, but these are Pacific Standard Time. So for your East Coast, make sure that you bookmark it. Or even better, you know what you can do? Subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you go down in YouTube right now, down to the subscribe button and hit the bell after you subscribe, you'll be notified of all these things. So subscribe to the channel, and then Tuesday, the 16th, you're going to have Bad Brad Berkwit, who just got inducted into the Boxing Hall of Fame for his broadcasting. He's a military vet who has had a ton of special forces experience. He is a political activist as well, and he's got a wicked podcast. So speaking of podcasts, my next guest, I first met in the Toronto area. I think one of the last experiences we had was to watch the Toronto Raptors go to the NBA Finals, and it was amazing to watch him and other Torontonians celebrate the first finals for the Raptors. He's a wicked musician. He's got a Tom Petty tribute up in the Toronto area called We Ain't Petty. He's got a podcast called, here it is, I'm going to put it up here, actually, Beyond the Mic, is that right? I believe it's Beyond the Mic. We're going to talk about it in a second. Oh, Outta The Park. That's what it is. Outta The Park. I remember. Sorry. Brad Berkowitz is Beyond the Mic. So today, my buddy Barry Davis, he's been a sportscaster for the Jays and the Maple Leafs, and he's just taking time out so he can hang out with us. So let me bring him on. Here he is. Barry Davis. What's happening, buddy?
Hey, any chance 5-Star Guitars can deliver to Toronto?
Absolutely. Yeah. Go to 5starguitars.com, put the promo code in, and
see, there you go.
Let them know that Kevy Metal said, dude, go their way.
I need another one for my wall, as you can see.
I know. Okay, well, let's talk about those. But first of all, dude, I apologize about butchering your podcast, Outta The Park. I don't know why, but we're going to talk about the podcast in a second. Mm-hmm. You got the beautiful, you got a Fender Telly right there. And then I was trying to look right behind your head there. What is that one? Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh,
the white one?
No, the red SG. You got
white SG. Yeah, actually, that's not even a Les Paul. That is a Dean. That's for the Cars tribute that I do. It's the
I forgot about the Cars tribute. That's
yeah. And then I got my my Firebird, my Gibson Firebird over there as well. So
did you see that our good pal Gord Depp is selling one of his Firebirds, the purple one?
He's selling that one?
He is, yes. So
if there's anyone as obsessed with guitars as I am, it's Gord. And we the majority of our conversations are always based around, hey, do you have one of these? Or I want to get one of those type of thing. We're weird that way, guitar players. I mean, it's like people who collect cars, right? They have to have, they don't even necessarily use them all. They just want them.
Yeah, I know. Well, you can never have too many.
No.
I've got more drum kits than I think I need. But my pal Tony Profit here is in the chat, and he says for a fee, he'll drive a guitar up to you. So
perfect.
Yeah, man. Nice to see the guys in Twitch chiming in here as well. So Twitch, if you're there, head over to YouTube. Do me a favor. Go to youtube.com/allaccesslive with Kevin Rankin. Subscribe, and then you'll get to see this guy's beautiful face all the time. So let's talk about you, dude. You've been in the sports industry for a long time. You do this for a living, man. You've been a professional reporter and interviewer. So I guess when I first met you, you were doing some work with Ed Souza from the Souza Group.
Yes, and I'm sure he's watching and he's singing, why isn't Barry wearing any Sousa wear?
Well, I asked you not to. I said,
yes, you did.
You know, I said, dumb it down a little bit and just put Beatles on, will you?
Yeah,
so,
there you go. Exactly. Exactly.
Susan Ross says hello, which is nice to see the fans of Barry here. Tell me, man, I mean, obviously you're a sports fan. I know that. So how did you get into the reporting side of things? And are you a Canadian originally?
So I was actually born just outside Miami, Florida.
Okay.
And my father was born and raised in Toronto. My mother, American. They settled. They were both in the entertainment industry. My dad was one of those 50s lounge singers that, you know, would do the whole thing, right? You know, you act, you sing, you do impressions. My wife was my mother was part of a big dance troupe, and they met gigging together. So I guess it was kind of in my blood that I was going to do some kind of an entertainment lifestyle.
Okay.
But they moved back here to Toronto when I was 3. So I grew up here. Like any Canadian kid, you want to be in the NHL. That was my life, right?
Okay.
And around teenage years, that's when I discovered music, and I actually started playing in bands from age 16 to 21. Then when I realized I needed to find a way to make money, I decided, oh, I need a career here, because music is, you know, a bit of a gamble. So I decided to take even a bigger gamble and try to get myself into broadcasting. So I ended up going to a radio broadcasting college, and I was lucky enough to land a part-time gig working overnights, pushing buttons at a radio station. And that radio station just happened to change to Canada's first all-sports radio station in September of '92. And then the Blue Jays went on to win the World Series. So that kind of got me in. And I started at the very bottom and was in that industry for a good 25 years. The only problem was my music playing ended at that point. So I hadn't gigged from around 91 till about 2013, 2014, really? Between actually being on stage. Yeah.
Wow. Was it, what was your interest in music before that? What were you playing primarily?
I always wanted to be a singer. That was my thing as a kid. And when I had a couple of buddies in high school that were both musicians, and they used to jam all the time. And I said, I'd love to come and sing with you. I went and hung out with them. I sang. I said, I want to be in your band. They said, we don't have a bass player. I said, perfect. I'll be your bass player. How do you play a bass? So I went out and bought a bass and taught myself how to play. And then I was doing that for the longest time. And when I got away from playing gigs, I started playing the acoustic guitar, because honestly, Kevin, it's not much fun sitting around a campfire with a bass.
Unless you have an acoustic bass, right? Or ukulele.
Sure, but you can only play Money so many times, right? Yeah. By Pink Floyd. So, yeah, so music and sports are always both my passions, and I've been so blessed to be able to do both of those for lengthy parts of my life. And you know, not too many people can say they've had a chance to do things they love.
You know, I've talked about this on the show quite a bit, man. If you do what you love, you never work a day in your life, right?
It's true.
So I feel kind of guilty, right, that I get to play music and, you know, travel the world and kind of hang out with people like this and meet people like you. You know, I'm fortunate. So I wanted to ask you, you know, stylistically, you said that you wanted to be a singer. Were you in? Because I hate to sound so I guess what's the word I'm looking for? You know, in America, right, we've got so many different varied styles of music that are broadcast on all the commercial radio. You go to Canada, there is a requirement that you got to have Canadian artists for a portion of the time. And so a lot of my musician friends up in Canada said, you know, they were certainly influenced more by the influx of Canadian artists because of the radio. So were you kind of interested in Canadian bands more, or like, were you a Geddy Lee fan? Or
Okay, I'm going to admit something that
okay,
might be a little embarrassing.
no problem.
But,
Wait, we have a section for that later called My Guilty Pleasures, but that's okay.
Well, I've got more of them. I've got
All right.
a whole basket full of guilty pleasures.
Good.
So when my first experience ever with music was the fact that when I was maybe 2 years old, my mother was the biggest fan of the world of Tom Jones.
Oh,
love Tom Jones.
Yeah,
it was on in the house all the time. The first concert I ever went to, I was maybe 6, and it was my mom taking me to a Tom Jones concert, and I was very confused by the keys being thrown on the stage and all that, right? So I used to, as a little baby, and they've got home movies of me using a dog leash as a microphone and pretending to be Tom Jones, and that was what I did as a little kid. When I was around 8 or 9, that's when I discovered the Beatles, and that was it for me. That was when I was like, music is it for me. But the Canadian music that we were exposed to here, that a lot of Americans didn't get a chance to hear so often. And, you've gotten to know the Spoons so well.
Yeah.
And, I mean, even your dog's a big fan, apparently.
He loves the Spoons. Because Gord from the Spoons' dog, Luca, is my, as close to a girlfriend as I could possibly have. So pardon me for a second. My dog, Edgar.
A very famous dog, too. I see him on video every day.
He usually comes in here, and he's usually on my lap, but we may have somebody at the door. So anyway, go ahead, Dan. All right.
So yeah, the Beatles really just made me want to do this, to make music. But yeah, a lot of Canadian bands were huge for me. Triumph, Honeymoon Suite, Glass Tiger, the Spoons. There were so many of them that we would see in concert all the time, and it gave us here a little bit of hope that even though the chances are probably higher if you're living in New York or LA, that there was a scene here. And there have been so many incredible musicians that have come out of the Toronto area. I mean, look at Neil Young, for example, and so many, he's Canadian. And I have a lot of American friends, and they're blown away when they find out that certain artists, like David Clayton Thomas of Blood, Sweat, and Tears. I mean,
that's right.
Born and raised here in Toronto.
Yeah. There are, I think the first band, international band that a band that I played and supported was BTO. And those guys, they're also Canadian, right? So
absolutely, yeah. And Randy Bachman as an original member of the Guess Who too, right?
That's true. Yep, absolutely. I always think of Rush and Triumph and those kind of like iconic rock bands is a Canadian thing. There's somebody in the Twitch chat that asked if you know Turkish music. That's kind of it's a rare thing, but
yeah, I'd like to know. I mean, I'm into any kind of music. Kevin, I think you and I are very similar. That the genre of music is really irrelevant. A good song's a good song, right? And if you, as a drummer, I mean, you're probably thinking if there's a good groove, I'm in. And for me, if there's a good melody and harmonies, I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I when I talk about the guilty pleasures, it's funny because sometimes some of my guests will say, I'm into like Tom Jones. There's nothing guilty about that, right? That's the epitome of cool. Or they say ABBA, right? Yeah. ABBA writes great songs. Man, those hooks are so huge, So if you like a good hook, doesn't matter who it is. Sometimes I talk to people that are outside the music industry, and like if they're really into health and nutrition and wellness, and their guilty pleasure is that they like to snack on Reese's peanut butter cups, right? And that's like a little stretch, but the fact that you get to balance, most when I grew up, if you were into sports, most guys were not in bands, or because you had to dedicate so much time to your sport or into music, but because it was like the jocks or the musicians, but you kind of had a balance of both. And you mentioned wanting to be a NHL player, but I know that you're a pretty accomplished baseball player too, right?
Well, I wouldn't say accomplished, but I've been to a couple of fantasy camps during my years, watching the Blue Jays. I've probably been to, over 1,000 live baseball games, and that was amazing. I mean, I got paid to sit in the camera bay right on the third base line and watch baseball for a living, and had an opportunity to see those incredible years in 2015 and 2016. And, when the Blue Jays were going to the postseason, and with my job here, I was right in the clubhouse getting champagne poured over my head. And I was not a player, but it gave me an opportunity to kind of know what that feeling is like.
Yeah.
And the way I always handled it when I had my TV job was to try to give the viewers a sense that they were a part of it. So I'm kind of that connector between the baseball players and the baseball fans. And yes, I do have Instagram. Thank you.
What is your Instagram, buddy?
I think it's just at Barry Davis. There's also We Ain't Petty page and an Out of the Park page and a Driven page. I've got 4 Instagram pages.
As you should.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put the that one in here real quick, and it's just Barry Davis on Instagram at Barry Davis.
You found me?
I'm going to actually just put the link in here. So,
oh, nice.
All right. If you're out there and you're looking at social media and you want to add Barry Davis, here's his links below. I was just thinking, I saw some footage of you as a bass player out there, and I thought maybe we could share a little bit of that with the.
Oh, you've got some. I was to be made fun of by Josh Donaldson, Marcus Stroman, Kevin Pillar, and Aaron Sanchez. Like that was, some people say that's embarrassing. I love that. I was just like,
no, man. You handled it well, and
I haven't seen that in 5 years, by the way. Thank you.
I have to bring this stuff up. I did find your baby. No, I'm just kidding. I don't have baby pictures of you. You know what? This is cool, man. Mike Skill from the Romantics is here right now. He just said hello, and we were going to be in the studio today, actually doing a little bit of recording. So, Mike,
oh no way.
Yeah, man, we'll be doing it next week though. So, if you're a Romantics fan, which I know you are,
yeah, Mike was on my music podcast because I've got a music one too called Sessions.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the transition. Sportscaster, you were a reporter for, I think, the Jays first or the Leafs first?
Well, it was kind of all over the place, right? So when I first started in the industry, it was pretty much every sport, from baseball to cricket, that I covered in radio. When I went to TV, my first year there, I did nothing but Maple Leafs. And then the year after that, I did nothing but Raptors. And then I went into baseball full time after that. And that's where I was until I got to the point where, the media industry, especially here in Canada, really sucks large, Kevin. And just this past week, over 200 jobs were eliminated in the TV and radio business out here from a very large company called Bell that has lots of money. Yeah. And yet they are just letting people go. And unfortunately now it's not about talent. It's not about earning your way. It's about how cheap will you work. And it's a sad state of the industry. And I found myself kind of in that mix a few years ago. And after a long, what I felt was a very successful career, the whole rug kind of was pulled out from under me. And so I bounced back, right? I mean, that's where I got myself more into my music and just doing whatever I can and starting up 2 podcasts just to keep myself going.
Yeah. I mean, you're good at it, right? I mean, when we first met, you weren't even emceeing an event or anything like that. You and I were talking before one of Ed Souza's charity events. And I just remember your demeanor. You came across as a very warm and engaging guy without feeling like I'm being sold, and
I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's the truth. And I think on your podcast too, you convey that, you're a really good interviewer, and I could take a lot of lessons from you. But did you have that kind of skill, like growing up, going to to the school? Did you do speech classes and broadcasting or anything like that?
So when I was around 10 years old, my mother had given me this little cassette tape recorder. Okay, I'm aging myself. I'm 53 now. But when I was around 10, and I had this little cassette recorder, and I had a little microphone, and I used to walk out to the playground with this thing, and I used to just talk to people, talk to the other kids. Right. I used to, secretly hide the tape recorder and record my father if he came home drunk one night. I always was recording myself, wanting to hear what I sounded like on tape. So it was something I always wanted to do. I just didn't know I wanted to do it. And I do remember around 1989, when they'd first opened the Dome here, going to a Jays game with my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, and looking at the broadcast booth. And I remember saying to her, one day I want to be in that booth. I want to work in that booth. And, maybe 5-6 years later, there I was in that booth. It was the most incredible, thing. And, when I was going to college and studying radio, I was a little bit older than the rest of the class. I was probably around 23, 24. And I knew that there were so many there that had more God-given ability, more raw talent than I did. But I knew that there was more than just that. It's all about attitude, right? I mean, Kevin, there are a lot of amazing drummers, but not everybody's going to want specific drummers in their band because of the whole package. There are so
Right.
many variables out there. That's what I love about you, Kev, because I mean, man, you bring it in. You're such an awesome human being. And I think
Thanks, man.
it takes more than just talent to have a successful life, to reach out to people. And you've got to be a good person, man. And this is a pretty crappy world we're in right now. We need more good people.
Relationships, you know, the connection with people, communication, that is so important. And, you know, you're right. I mean, I've talked about it a lot on this show, that having the technical capabilities to do something is such a small part of the overall success. Or, I think if you're you're reliable, you're a good person to hang out with. As a musician, you got to be able to hang out with somebody 24 hours a day, you know, and oftentimes it's like 4 or 5 people being able to be around each other 24 hours a day. Right. And so you've got to be able to roll with the punches, be willing to kind of look at somebody else's perspective. If you're tired and you've been traveling on the bus for, 6 days at a time, and you've had no sleep, and you're exhausted because you've had, 5 gigs in a row and the food's bad, you have to be able to put some of your, your own sort of crabbiness aside and just say, hey, we're in it all for the good of the betterment of the band. I had somebody that wanted to try to jump in here.
Yeah, sure.
He's not a nemesis at all, but he's another bandmate of mine that happens to follow you on your exploits on Twitter. So I got Maury Brown here. Let me bring him in here. Hey, Maury, what's up, man? Oh, hey, we're not getting your audio now. I'm not sure if you can adjust your microphone, but it looks like your audio's
How about now?
There
he
is.
is.
Yeah. Hey, man.
I was like treating my friend in Montreal. I wore special attire for officially Trevor Bauer to the Mets.
Yeah, I know. It's funny because I actually put out a poll to my followers on Twitter about how they feel about the Blue Jays not getting Trevor Bauer. And at this point, over 80% are saying they're thankful he didn't sign in Toronto. So,
wow.
Kind of the fallback guy that might be good. So I don't know if you know this. First of all, I've decided that Canada needs to adopt me and Kevin, people here that follow his show, because we love you people. I'm on every Tuesday in Winnipeg, and it's like the greatest thing ever. We talk to Blue Jays every Tuesday. And so Tuesday, on TSN in Winnipeg, I'll be talking about this thing with them. But yeah, I mean, it's probably a good deal for Blue Jay fans. I mean, they can sit there and go, well, we didn't spend a small fortune. But hey, your background's better. What year is the Firebird?
That's actually not that old. It's probably around 2001.
Very nice.
Yeah. Speaking of, it's interesting that you brought up Trevor Bauer, and this all comes back to what we were just saying, Kevin, about the fact that Trevor Bauer is a good pitcher. Is he a great pitcher? He's a really good pitcher, but he's such an a-hole, right? And just the matter of, do you want him infiltrating into that clubhouse with the young players, right? And how will that mix, right? I mean, with the Dodgers, you need a certain amount of veteran guys that can tell him, we don't want any of your crap around here, kind of thing. But if he wins a lot of games for the Dodgers, then God bless you, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And so about that, Kevin, and so one of the things about that I keep thinking about is, like, I looked at their rotation and it's just stupid. I mean, I keep thinking that David Price will get moved.
But Toronto Blue Jay fans want him here. They want him moved here.
Yeah. So this is, well, then that would be kind of a homecoming, right?
Yeah.
Now, of course, he's declined quite a bit. But the thing about Bauer, the Mets would have been bad because they had the Jared Porter. And so I don't know if you know this, Kevin, but Jared Porter was a former front office guy there that sent a bunch of D pictures and a bunch of other bad.
Wow.
And it's like, you're going to go ahead after that and bring in a guy that, while he's never sent that stuff that I know of, he's harassed a lot of women. People,
cancerous.
Good person, just defending himself. But I don't know if that's the way to go. So it'll be interesting to see how that works with that whole dynamic. Maybe somebody like Clayton Kershaw helps keep them together, but
the two of you guys, I love getting you guys together because you can talk endlessly about sport, pretty much any sport. Maury's thing that's really interesting. Maury is so detailed about salaries and financial stuff. You know, you could talk to him 12 hours a day and he'd still have so much more information about the way that, you know, salary caps are in all forms of the sport. We talk a lot of NFL football down here, and I don't know how much you follow CFL down there, Maury, but I think you got the Argos up there, Barry. Hometown boy Mike Vanderjagt was playing with them for a while. That was how I first sort of made my connection to Toronto. It was through Vanderjagt. But he's another one of those guys, right? That we talked about relationships, and he wore out his welcome pretty much everywhere he went because he had an attitude, right? And I think, you know, it's great to talk about that with sports, because sports is all about the camaraderie, right? And that sort of synergistic thing that you feed off of other players. When NBA teams try to put together star players for the star factor, right? They get it, and, you know, they want to be able to sell ratings. And these guys, you know, they might have 3 guys that are unbelievable players, but that chemistry can't be manufactured by plugging them all in. So that's why you see all-star bands, right? You'll see that some record label will say, oh, we want to get, you know, these 4 Hall of Fame players together. And if there's no internal vibe, maybe one of the guys is an asshole, it doesn't work. It doesn't come off as authentic. And so as far
think of one of those, you know, all-star bands that lasted more than an album or 2, right? I mean, you've had, I remember, I love Damn Yankees, big fan of Tommy Shaw, and it worked for a short time. But yeah, if you don't have that camaraderie, you can't force people together and expect wonderful things to happen. Again, like you talk about character. I mean, you guys were so fortunate to get Gord Depp in A Flock of Seagulls, because great guitar player, but just a great person, right? And you need that chemistry.
It's the truth. Yeah. You know, it's funny. You were talking about bands, I guess, like Traveling Wilburys. I mean, you can't get a bigger sort of all-star band than that group, right? And it's unfortunate that, you know, like death and
that really destroyed them.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, that band probably would have gone on, because you could tell that there was a lot of respect there. That's the thing, respect, right? As far as like camaraderie goes, respect. I mean, we think about relationships. Maury and I have had tons of conversations about this, that to have a partner that is equal in a relationship where there's 50-50 in the give, it's so much about respecting the other person's interests. And I love seeing you, Barry, navigate a whole bunch of career options because you have a lot of respect for other people. You know, when you've gone from broadcasting and you have the music thing, you do a lot of work with charity. You know, the work with Ronald McDonald House has been awesome to see, man. And I know that Ed Souza is kind of that, you know, the forefront of that. But and actually Maury too, man. Maury's done a lot of work with charity work for autism research, Arrow. And I think getting outside yourself, right? I mean, like just doing something that can benefit somebody else.
Well, you want to hear a story that there's a charity here called Easter Seals. I don't know if it exists out there, but a very good friend of mine has cerebral palsy, and he's spent almost his entire life in a wheelchair. He's nonverbal, and he is one of the coolest guys in the world. His name's Andrew Nielsen, and he's just a fantastic dude. He likes to party. You know, he can't drink literally out of a bottle, but he has a feeding tube, and you know, beer right through that tube, and he'll have a great time. But he's a fantastic guy. But he, a couple of years ago, said, listen, every year I do this challenge for Easter Seals to raise money, rappelling down a 22-story building. And he does it in his wheelchair, which I think is phenomenal. Yeah. And he asked me if I would do that. Now, I'm terrified of heights, but I also don't back down on a challenge. So there I was, suspended on this rope that was going to decide whether I was going to live or die, and found myself rappelling down this building. But being able to do it alongside Andrew was the most incredible thing, going down, and there he is right beside me. And it just felt like an incredible experience. So yeah, sometimes you have to step outside your comfort zone and do things you didn't think you would ever be able to do. But when you're doing it for a cause, when you're doing it for something that really feels good, it doesn't matter. Look at this. Ed Souza already asking me where I told you he was going to do that.
Yeah. Ed must be coming in late because he didn't hear me say that. I asked Barry not to wear Souza wear so that I could wear it. And
that's right.
I could feel special. We'll get one of those for Maury Brown here too, before his episode.
I think a snoozer would look good on Maury.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
The Souza snoozer.
Yeah.
Right.
you know, I'm really glad to pair you guys up because Barry, Maury, you guys are two peas in a pod. I know that you have reverence for the sport and a lot of you know, respect for the craft of following sort of sports reporting and sports statistics. So I want you guys to connect offline. I know that Maury follows you on Twitter, and I don't know if you guys haven't gotten to meet in person yet, but
right. Well, I got to do this because if he's going to represent, I got to represent too.
Okay.
Here it comes.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's the hat. Okay. Here, hold on. I'm going to show that off so that everybody can see. There it is. Look at that.
That's memories, man. That's the postseason.
I love it.
It is.
Yeah.
That was one of the cool things about the gig, being able to take home one of those beauties, you know?
Yeah.
As well as these are the goggles that I wore in the clubhouse in 2015 and 2016.
So you didn't get champagne in your eyes?
And 4 years later, you can still smell the champagne in them. It's pretty cool.
I don't want to hear that, man. Like when you think about rock and roll and the smells that you get from 4 years later,
man. You know what I don't miss? I don't miss the days of when they allowed smoking in the clubs, and you'd go to set up your gear in the afternoon and the place would just reek of stale beer and cigarettes. Do you remember that smell?
I cannot forget it. Honestly, that's what we all grew up with, right? So
yeah.
Maury's got a lot of rock and roll history in the Portland area, and you know, it's in Montana where they still do a ton of that. You know, it's like, you know, they'll skip the mask and just keep smoking at the bars, but that's why I don't live there anymore.
I remember you would play, right, and then the next day you would wake up and you could smell it in your hair.
Oh yeah,
but that's the last thing you want, right, in the morning. It's just doesn't go with breakfast.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I know Barry's going to jump in a second. So Maury, I'm going to book, because we have an appointment scheduled for years too. So we're going to have you on Alexis Live, and we'll talk about our AC/DC tribute. And we've been playing with an AC/DC tribute for a good handful of years now. And I think we should get We Ain't Petty down here and shoot to thrill up there. So Ed Souza, you're watching, make it happen.
Yes. Yeah. Ed's the king of that.
Yes.
It's hard to believe, like last week marked the 1 year anniversary of our last indoor gig.
Wow.
And it was like, you get on Facebook the memories, and I went, oh my God, that was a year ago. All we've had since then is one outdoor show, and that was it. But to play a theater, that was a year ago. Miss it so much, man.
Yeah, no, it's you know, on the show, it's tricky on this show. Because I get depressed thinking about not playing, right? And I think Maury and I have had that conversation offline too, that every musician that's out there on the planet has had this sort of identity crisis, right? Where the thing that makes us most passionate has been taken away. And it's not just musicians, right? It's so many people in their industries have lost that stuff. And it's important to kind of find an avenue where you can still have an outlet, whether it be, you know, sports, or for me, I'm out in the woods every day with my dog, and I have to get out there, kind of get outside my head, you know? So maybe real quick before you go, Maury, what are you doing right now to get outside your head?
I'm going to go for a hike.
Okay, cool.
Like, if I get out, as soon as we get offline here, I'll take Travis out. We'll go for a hike. That's been a big thing. You know, playing music, woodshedding when I can. But no, it's largely just been going out and getting out.
Good. Was that Travis in the background?
Cute. Like when he's in the background, I told him he could hang out.
Yeah.
He was quiet, but
please tell Travis, man, and Tyler and Glenna, you know, hello for me. I really appreciate you jumping on. I really want you guys to be able to meet in person.
Very next time, break the Expo shout out, right? We got to give some good mojo to try and get the team back. Is that the deal?
Oh, that would be nice, Maury. I'd love that. It's way too many years have gone by. We need a team back in Montreal.
Awesome. Hey guys, thanks for having me. Kevin, we'll see you later. Barry, take care of yourself.
Yeah, good meeting you, Maury.
The guitars were nice. That's a nice backdrop. You can never lose with that.
Yeah, that's a winner. All right, Maury, thanks again.
It's funny, Kev, what it's all come down to wall art now, right? Everybody has to have the wall art going, right?
Well, this is not very exciting, right? But
you look like a stand-up comedian with that behind you.
Yeah. Don't forget to tip the bartenders and waitresses.
That's right.
Do you know Kenny Aronoff, drummer?
I know of him. Phenomenal drummer. You know him?
I had him on the show.
Oh,
and his
we'll
backdrop.
have to talk to get me on my show.
His backdrop was just solid platinum records, right? And so I said, yeah, I guess you have to be able to decorate your office there with some of your accomplishments. And he said, well, I can't decorate them all over the house because, it's not really respectful. And I said, well, yeah, you've got a couple of them. And he goes, yeah. He's got over 3,000 gold, platinum, and diamond records.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah. So I'm just going to stick with my gold, my brick wall. And then when the flock of seagulls is around, we bring Mike's Grammy.
That's right. So, yeah. You know what I love about Kenny Aronoff's drumming is he can actually provide a hook in a song. And some of the things, some of those Mellencamp songs, and I told you earlier, I mean, I'm a big guy for melody, but some of the things that he would do, that would be the hook of the song. And when you hear that, that's, wow, that's what you want to hear in a drummer, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough for us to stand out in a big way, but the crazy thing is not only does he have the hooks and he's got the ability to lend musicality to a song with his drumming, but he's larger than life, right? I mean, the guy, he's a kickboxer. He's so energetic. Talking to him, I had to cut him off after 2 hours. He was going to go and go and go. I felt like I was at a revival talking to him. It was great, man. I really was empowered.
I think that might be a drummer thing, Kevin.
It could be, but I don't know that I've got that kind of energy, but it was inspiring anyway. With you've got the We Ain't Petty band, and you were playing quite a bit up until the pandemic. And you've got a Cars tribute. Tell me a little bit about that band.
It's interesting because, the Petty band was, keeping me relatively busy, but I'm always looking for something new to do. And I had actually spoken to Ed Souza about this months before I did it. I said, I love the Cars. I've always wanted to do it. I was actually approached by a guy in high school back in 1984. And I was in my first band at the time. And he said, hey, why don't you quit your band and you and I can start up a Cars tribute band? And I said, oh, man, I can't leave my band. We're going to be big. We're going to make it. Right. And of course, we never did make it. And we ended up doing this Cars tribute, which was really, really incredible all these years later. And the guy that actually recommended to me, he had sadly passed away right before our first gig. Oh. And, I always think about whenever we would play that, I always would think about it, but we really only had one gig, and that was at Classic Bowl.
Oh, before the pandemic. Oh.
Right before the pandemic. And that was our first gig. And we were really looking forward to getting on and doing some more. We had Derek Giles drumming with us. We were going to use him for some gigs as well. And we were really excited about it happening. And like I said, the Cars were a band that I grew up on. And to be able to have the opportunity to play that music was just so cool. And I ran it by Ed. I said, well, we're debating between doing just like all 80s or doing a Cars thing. And he goes, do a Cars thing. So, of course, we plan this Cars thing. And then Rick Ocasek dies, and now everybody's like, well, you're just jumping on the bandwagon. It's like, no. This thing goes back to 1984 for me.
Yeah. It's funny because you were talking about all 80s. You could do a whole night with the Cars tunes. This guy's had so many hits, right? It's funny because you may not think about it until you're in a Cars tribute or you're at one of the shows. They
only had 6 albums. They had 6 studio albums.
Yeah, but each one of those had like 5 or 6 hits on it.
That's it, right? I mean, you think of Tom Petty and like 30 some odd albums, right? There's so much material to choose from, but the Cars, you can put together a show with the Cars as well on just those 6 albums alone. I mean, their debut album, many look at that as a greatest hits album.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, almost. I mean, I can't think of a bad song on that record. Actually,
there's not.
Ed and I might disagree on some of our favorite records growing up, but I would love to know about yours. Can you give me like your top 3 that you were inspired to play?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd be biased. I would say anything from the Beatles, right? And Rubber Soul is by far, it's my favorite Beatles album. I love everything they ever did. Okay. I was also huge Van Halen guy growing up, and I'm one of the few, Kevin, that actually did not have a problem with Sammy Hagar. A lot of people were like, you had to be one or the other. You had to be a David guy or a Sammy guy. I was a Van Halen guy. I didn't, to me, it was two different versions of the band, and I liked them both. So I know some people are very, very defensive on one side or the other, but Van Halen for me, and 5150, that album really, really did something for me personally. Of course, Damn the Torpedoes was one of the first albums I ever heard, so I've always loved Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. I'm a huge, and maybe it comes from my Beatles influence, but I'm a huge fan of Jeff Lynne and ELO. That guy could just, most incredible songwriter, could just write anything. And, yeah, I mean, all the classics, you know, the Who, Zeppelin, the Stones, all. Like I said, I love music. I just love music. I can listen to any good song. I'm not a big fan of some of the vocal stylings these days. There's a lot of this, everyone kind of trying to sound the same type thing going on, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, you've got a lot of real popular locals, right, in your hood right now. I mean, of course, you know, Drake is there. You had Bieber, right?
Yeah, the Biebs.
I had an amazing singer who's an actress on Wednesday, Veronica Slowakowska, who's in the TV show What We Do in the Shadows. I had her on the show, and
Cool.
we debuted her new single, and it blew my mind. She's amazing. I mean, you know, every Canadian artist I seem to meet has all this talent, but it's, you know, there's something special about that area. She lives in Barrie, actually. So, you know, when I mentioned Casino Rama, right, she got all excited because that's where she's at now during the pandemic. But
well, I'd like to recommend a Canadian artist that you may or may not have heard of. She was really big in the mid 90s, early 2000s, and her name is Biff Naked. And we just had her on the show. Biff has a brand new song out. She is the coolest human being you're ever going to want to meet, and one of the nicest people you're ever going to want to meet. And she's been rocking for quite a few years. And, you know, I always want to promote it to any of your American listeners to check out some of this great music that we've got coming out of this country.
Biff had some hits. I remember she was an MTV gal.
Yeah.
You know, I talked about guilty pleasures earlier, and, you know, Tom Jones is definitely not one. But what would people be surprised to hear that you kind of like secretly play when no one's around?
The Carpenters.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Karen Carpenter was a damn good drummer, you know.
And they're just those songs again, man, full of hooks, right?
Yeah, it was her voice too. There's just something magical when I would hear that voice. So, yeah, I mean, you know, a lot of the things that I thought were guilty pleasures really aren't guilty pleasures because people are like, oh, nowadays, like back then, if I admitted I liked the Bay City Rollers, it would be like, come on, right? The Bee Gees, come on. But now it's like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. You know, that's not bad. Right? It's the songs that you're still listening to 40, 50 years later.
Right.
And it's hard, right? If you were a band back in the 60s and 70s and you put out great music, it's probably still being heard now. Right. But now we are so, you know, full of this music, because what happens is new music comes out, old music doesn't necessarily go away. So if you're a new artist, the chances of your music being heard 40 years from now is pretty slim, because in 40 years, guess what? Kids are still going to listen to Zeppelin, the Stones, the Beatles, the Who. All these bands are still going to be out there. So you're now competing with bands that haven't recorded in 50 years, and a new band, you're competing for record sales with them. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's nuts. I mean, there's something amazing about that legacy, right? And one thing I talk a lot about on the show is legacy. You know, what would Barry Davis want to be known for at your last breath?
A good person. I just want to know that I was a good person who tried to live an unselfish life. And did I screw up? Did I make mistakes? Yeah, we all screw up, right? We're all human. We've all had our issues in life, but I just want to be remembered as someone who contributed something positive to the world.
You're already doing it. It's great. I mean, really, I think there's something special about Canadian family that I feel like I developed. You know, guys like you, Ed, Johnny Matusiak, Gord. I mean, all of the Andrew Clowder. Oh my God, there's so many people there that have embraced me as family. When Maury was saying earlier that he wants you guys to adopt, he doesn't know that I've been begging you guys to bring me into the country for a while, right? But
and the first time I met you, Kev, I mean, I had a chance to meet you guys backstage before you did a show. It was actually in a school. Yeah, and you guys were playing along with the Spoons that night. I think it was Gord's first show with you.
It was.
And I had a chance to meet you and Pondo and Michael and Mike, and it was like, this is the most incredible thing. Like, because you came across right away, and I consider myself to be pretty decent at reading people, and I went, I want to get to know this guy. You know?
Thank you, man. Thank you. I feel the same. You know, it was really special for me to get to watch the Raptors, you know, go to the NBA Finals with you guys at Classic Bowl. You know, so thanks, Ed Sousa, for putting that together, man. You know, before we get going, I just I want you to know that when this pandemic is done, whether I actually do relocate to Canada or not, I'm excited to see you overcome adversity, man. Like every single sort of like stumbling block that's been thrown your way, you keep getting up, man. It's inspiring, you know.
My buddies calls me Chumbawamba.
Oh
Right?
yeah,
I get
right.
knocked down, I get it back up again, right? I mean, who would have known 5 years ago that I'd be selling cars for a living, which is what I'm doing now, right? So,
Yeah,
you know, you just have to do what you got to do to survive. And I like I said earlier, I don't shy away from a challenge, and whatever comes my way comes my way.
absolutely, man. I love the legacy. I'm really glad to hear you say that. I think you know, anyone that knows you would think that you're already living it. So you're well on your way, man. You could cash in today and feel pretty good about what you left. So, man,
I don't want to, Kev. I'm not ready yet.
No, I'm not ready for you to either. But if we go, I want us to go at the same time in an airplane
Sure.
over the Bahamas or something. You know,
Okay.
so let's just let's make sure that we, you know, the next time we get together, we're gonna just pick up where we left off. I'm really happy to have you here, man. And if somebody wanted to hear your podcast, how do they get? We got Out of the Park, and then what was the other
Sessions?
Podcast? Okay,
Sessions.
right.
So the best way to go is if you go to soundcloud.com/Out of the Park, you'll see all of my sports ones and all of my music ones. Okay. And we're actually chatting. As soon as I'm done with you, I'm chatting with Alan Frew from Glass Tiger for my show. So you'll be able to check him out. And on our Blue Jays podcast, we have former Blue Jay Joe Biagini, who is one of the most unorthodox human beings in the world, but he's so much fun. And what we do now on our Blue Jays podcast is we do it on Zoom, and we allow a certain number of fans to join in. So they get to be part of it and ask questions and interact with their favorite ball players. So that's kind of cool.
That is awesome, man. Please do me a favor and tell Alan Frew that Kevy Metal says he loves him.
I will.
I do adore that man. He's a good human being for sure. So have a great time with him. And Ed Souza, thank you for being here. Thanks to all of you guys for being here on the All Access Live show. And subscribe if you haven't already so that you can come back on Tuesday. I've got a lot of great guests coming up next week. So Damian Erskine, Kyle Baltus, Charlie Wadhams, lots and lots. And Barry Davis, man, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here. Thanks,
Cabby Rock, man. Thank you.
You got it, buddy. Have a great weekend.